Hi.
First off, I'll apologize. He fooled us all.
Oh.
He's a liar.
Everybody thought they knew who murdered Renee, but maybe it's not the obvious person.
But I just want to say how beautiful you are, and I really am proud of you.
It can be sort of hard to wrap your mind around the idea that this guy could be a cold-blooded, brutal killer.
I am going to be his next victim. He is going to kill me at some point.
He was walking free, living his life.
Knowing how he is now, I would not defend him.
Do you believe he killed Renee?
What's so heartbreaking about this case is that this guy was able to viciously stab her 50+ times.
You are receiving a call from an inmate. This call will be recorded.
Emergency, can I help you?
My daughter, we just found her in bed, and on the upper part of her arm, she's got a big cut above her elbow. And you know, bleeding? No, I don't think she's living. I think she's gone. How old is she, sir? 41 years old. 41? Yeah. I think maybe the police ought to be in on this because she's got cloth stuck in her mouth.
She's got cloth stuck in her mouth?
Yeah.
On August 5th, 2006, Kent County Sheriff went to Renee Pagel's home out in rural Rockford, Michigan. The 911 call was made by Renee Pagel's father. He had received a call that day from Renee's friend. Renee had failed to contact her or show up for an engagement that they had planned. Unfortunately, he finds his daughter dead in her bedroom, all bloodied. She was laying on the bed, tangled in the bedding. She had just a nightshirt on. She was covered in blood. There was blood spattered on the wall behind the bed. The crime scene was pretty gruesome. It was clear from the scene, as the investigators tried to piece it together, that she was caught unawares, probably sleeping.
We were called to a location in Cortland Township, which is in northern Kent County. First responders there located the body of Renee Beth Pagel, who was deceased from obvious trauma. There were no signs of forced entry into the home, and there were valuables left in plain sight.
Nothing was disturbed as far as the drawers and things like that. Jewelry untouched. There was a substantial amount of cash sitting on the nightstand. There was no damage to any other part of the house, and they could find no forced entry. So it was pretty clear from the get-go this was not a robbery.
This particular murder was meticulously planned. It was a rather brutal murder. This was a murder that was inspired or driven by rage. The person who did this was very familiar with the home, very familiar with Renee and what she'd be doing.
There was no evidence of sexual assault, and there wasn't a drop of blood found anywhere else in the house. There was no murder weapon found at the scene.
This is 50-some stabbings, very brutal, lots of blood, very violent. There were such forceful stabs that this knife had pierced her skull.
We found out she had last talked to a friend on the phone, approximately, I think, about 11, 12 o'clock at night. She likely died sometime between midnight when she was last talked to and probably 6 o'clock in the morning or so, because her body was in a condition by the time the dad found her that showed she had been dead for several hours. She was divorced. She had 3 small children. The only good things I can say, the kids were with their dad that night. She had a lot of defensive wounds on her arms. You could see them in her hands. Some of her fingers were severed from her fighting off the murderer. Renee Pagel fought back hard.
The 41-year-old mother of three was stabbed 50 times in the family's Rockford area home.
I'd like to extend my sympathy to Renee's family. You know, there's no guarantees going forward, and there's a long road ahead.
Bad things don't happen in Rockford, Michigan. It is like quintessential suburbia, a soccer mom's paradise. The murder of Renee Pagel was such a huge and impactful case for this community. It just broke so many hearts because she was so beloved. If you want to know about Renee Pagel, just consider that a few days before she was murdered, she was donating her kidney to some guy she did not know. It doesn't get more giving than that. This is just an incredible woman.
My daughter called me and she said, "Mom, it's Renee. She's dead." I collapsed to my knees in the parking lot. Renee and I were both nurses in East Grand Rapids. We worked on the burn unit together. Renee absolutely loved her job. She loved being a nurse and was really caring for the families and all of the victims on the burn unit. Renee met Mike through his sister, who also worked with us on the burn unit. When Renee started dating Mike, it seemed like there was definitely an attraction. They just fell in love and started doing some things together and decided her biological clock was ticking. It was time to get married and have kids, because that's what she wanted to do. Renee was a very proud mom of 3 kids. We all knew what an amazing mother she was. Renee was very driven and wanted to work, but she also wanted to be home. Mike wanted to be a stay-at-home dad, and I think that started to really wear and tear on their marriage. Mike filed for divorce. I think that the kids were oblivious because of their age. Mike had moved out of the house and was living not too far away, and it worked out that when Renee was working, that Mike could watch the kids.
We had several people that we looked at as suspects in this case from the beginning. We learned a lot about what was going on in her life at the time.
Renee mentioned that weird things started happening. If it was maybe the renter she had, she found her barn flooded as somebody had turned on the water and left it. And there was nobody else that would have been out there to do anything like that.
There was the tenant who lived in the barn right beside the house where she was killed. He was the only person that was on the property that we could prove at the time of the murder. There were a lot of rumors out there that he might have been involved with her at the time of her death. We know he was there because he lived there. But when we talked to him about her murder, we could find zero evidence ever linking him to the crime scene.
We ruled him out for the murder. He thought it was Mike Pagel.
Obviously, the husband's always going to be looked at. When they looked into Mike Pagel to try to determine, who were his friends, what was he really like, everyone agreed he was an intelligent guy.
The divorce, it was just an ugly situation all the way around. And I think she was getting frustrated that Mike did not want to be employed. He wanted Renee to pay $2,000 a month. He wanted the house, and he wanted to stay home with the kids. And the judge said, there's no reason why you can't work. That's not going to happen, and awarded Renee most of the custody time with the kids. Renee was shocked to see how upset Mike was at the judge's decision.
When he interacted with his children, he was loving towards them. He was very protective towards them. And I just never saw any reason to believe he just didn't genuinely love and care for his children.
When the detectives show up at his house, Mike's house, he's not there. His mother's there, Patricia Pagel. She had been in town from Saginaw, where she lived, for a few days. They do get a decent account from her about what happened the night before. Patricia tells them that the kids were home, Mike was with the kids, that she got up in the middle of the night one time to let the dog out, and she thought that she heard that Mike was coming inside at the time, the slider, in the middle of the night, maybe 2, 3 in the morning. And she just assumed he was letting the dog out again. They waited at least an hour for Mike Pagel. When he got home and they told Mike that they had found Renee dead, they don't get any statement out of him. He lawyers up and says, I'm not going to talk. And that's it.
The divorce was ongoing at this point. So if we could find something that put Mike Pagel at that house when he shouldn't have been, and very close in time to the murder, that'd be great evidence. But there's no evidence of that.
One day, Renee contacted me and mentioned that there was money missing from her bank accounts. Renee learned that there had been just money withdrawals, and she would ask Mike about it, and Mike denied it. And Mike told Renee that it wasn't him, it was his brother, Bo, that was taking the money. She told me that she thought Mike was paying Bo to kill her.
Mike's brother did not hide the fact that he did not like Renee. Hated Renee because she has a strong personality. He'll tell you that to your face. There was suspicion about Bo. So what we had to look at was, we knew Bo hated Renee. What we had to figure out was, did he dislike her so much that he was willing to kill her, stab her 50 times in her sleep?
The word just spread because nobody could believe anybody would murder Renee Pagel. There was a hint of suspicion that possibly it was Mike's brother, Bo. And I remember meeting with the lead detective, and I told him that it's one of them. If it's not Mike, it's Bo. If it's not Bo, it's Mike. It was so frustrating to feel so strongly in your heart, in your mind, in your soul that Mike or Bo is responsible for her murder.
Bo Pagel became a suspect really when we got a hold of phone records. He was the last person that Mike talked to before the time that we believe she was killed.
I had so many questions regarding Bo's involvement. I would not be at all surprised if he played a part.
And we figured that if there was anyone who would have helped Mike, it would have been Bo.
We learned that Bo lived in Saginaw, not far from Rockford, Michigan. He was a truck driver, would drive from state to state, and that he had just finished a route the night that she was killed. Even though he was living out of town, he could have made it here and back and killed her. We had heard information that he had been married more than one time, had at least one wife died under suspicious circumstances. When they get there, they notice he has a big scratch on his arm that looks relatively new. He gives us an alibi for himself, that he is in Saginaw at the time, that he had dinner with some local friends. The detectives asked Bo, do you know anyone that might want to hurt Renee? And he said he didn't know anyone who wanted to hurt her, and he would like to think that his brother couldn't. When asked if he would tell us if he knew his brother did it, he said probably not. He protects his brother. We had to investigate Bo and either implicate him or clear him.
Michigan has a really interesting investigative subpoena tool. You get reluctant witnesses or you get people to come in and you force them to testify on a case.
Good afternoon, ma'am. My name is Kelly Konski. You received an investigative subpoena to testify regarding any knowledge involving the death of Renee Pagel.
Yes. We bring Mike Pagel's mother in for her investigative subpoena, hoping to just lock in under oath the statement she's already made to the police the night of, which was that she thought that she heard Mike going in and out of the slider in the middle of the night, which left a window of opportunity for Mike to have left and gone and killed Renee and come back.
You remember during the night hearing the slider open and close?
I don't remember it right now, no.
Do you remember telling them that Mike told you the next morning that he let the dog out that night?
I don't remember. He could have.
She comes into court and she's placed under oath, and her story suddenly changed. And it's frustrating.
Did you hear the dog being let out at all that night?
No, I didn't. No.
Yeah, you hesitated. Any reason?
Pardon?
Did you hear the slider open or close at all when he went to bed that night?
No, although I'm trying to think if Mike took that opportunity to let her out too or not.
When Patricia's testifying, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, she's lying for her son. And he's gotten her to do this. And it's despicable.
Mrs. Pagel, you understand you're under oath.
Yeah.
Are you really sitting here telling me now that you can account for that dog's whereabouts from 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning till 7?
We tried to let her know how serious it was to lie under oath in a murder investigation. And there was a sense there that we could crack her.
Were you truthful with them when you first talked to them?
Yes.
You had no reason to lie, surely.
I had no idea what they wanted.
Mrs. Pagel, you understand you're under oath.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for raising my voice. I'm just concerned that you're going out on a limb for your son here when you don't need to. You just need to tell the truth. And if he didn't do anything, the truth will come out.
That didn't happen. You know when people are lying to you. We know this is baloney.
I'm going to ask you, do you know anything at all about the murder investigation you're here on today?
Yes.
Bo didn't want to answer. He took the fifth.
You ready to proceed?
Yeah.
Spoke to witness stand.
Did the husband do it? Did he do it alone? All these things were still unanswered.
You were not at or in Renee's home, either on the 4th, which was a Friday, or the 5th, which was a Saturday, at any time.
That's correct.
No doubt about that.
No doubt.
And did you kill her?
No.
Did you conspire to kill her with anyone else?
No.
Did you have any involvement whatsoever in the death of your wife?
No.
None.
None.
I was more skeptical. I'm a think outside the box kind of gal. So I was like, yeah, I know he's obvious, but maybe it's not the obvious person. We needed to find a piece of physical evidence, or we needed someone to come forward that had a statement from the suspect. And we didn't have that.
I think there was a little bit feeling for those poor kids. They knew something terrible happened to their mom. But I cannot imagine what Mike told his kids as to the reason their mom was killed.
She was a great mom. Renee's friends spoke often about how devoted she was to her children. She was such a lover of life and people. Those kids were robbed of those rich experiences that Renee could have given them. It's just absolutely heartbreaking.
Suddenly, 13 years later, we learned that somebody had information about Renee's murder. It was shocking to everybody.
Don't worry about what's happened in the past. Focus on that GoFundMe account and how it keeps on going up, okay?
The Renee Pagel case went cold for years and years and years. They had vigils every year, every anniversary. It just says so much about Renee that people did this every year and never gave up and always kept, seeking justice.
Renee's friends did not want this to be one of those cases that was forgotten. And one of Renee's close friends set up a website in hopes that we would get more information.
I know Mike was kind of stalked from location to location. Had to be very difficult for his children.
Mike moved his family to the other side of the state. His children were still quite young and really didn't have a lot of questions to ask about it due to their age. He had a girlfriend.
Hi, my fiance.
Hi, fiance. How are you doing? You make me very happy, honey.
You make me very happy, baby. And I can't wait to say I do.
That will be music to my ears. You are my queen of hearts.
Sitting here looking at my ring. I'll never forget you caught me staring at it at church.
I remember that.
Mike went on and developed a life for himself away from the scene. He shut the door on this incident.
I think what drove him the most was his love for his kids and caring for his kids and trying to shelter them from everything going on around them that implicated him as the suspect in killing their mother.
Nobody wanted Mike Pagel to be the one who got away with this. And there was concern that that could be the case. He may have pulled off the perfect crime and gone on to raise his kids and live a great life. Would they ever get justice for Renee Pagel?
We learned that somebody had anonymously reached out to the Who Killed Renee website saying they had information about Renee's murder.
Hello.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi? Is this Bo?
This is Bo.
We learned that this anonymous tip wasn't in fact anonymous. We learned from Renee's friend it was Bo Pagel.
I was just, imagine my surprise in hearing from you.
We decide we need to get Renee's friend to get on a phone call with him and record this.
First off, I'll apologize. You guys are absolutely 100% right about Mike and how he is. He fooled us all.
Oh.
He's a liar.
He starts to talk about how dangerous Mike is.
Mike has got to be stopped. I am going to be his next victim. He is going to kill me at some point.
Tell me what you mean by next victim.
I believe Mike will kill me at some point in time.
Do you believe he killed Renee?
I don't know. I don't know for certain, but I will tell you this: I would not defend him now, knowing how he is now. I would not defend him like I did. I would not defend him at all.
Suddenly, Bo Pagel is telling other people, I think he could have done this, which was a change from 2007 when we're talking to Bo, where no, he had nothing to do with this.
When we bring Bo in 2019 to testify, it's after the phone call with Renee's friend. He doesn't know we know about that.
It was in August of 2011.
And tell me the circumstances.
He had come to my mom's and...
In Saginaw?
In Saginaw, yes. And he had said, let's go look for some deer and get a 6-pack of snacks, which he was referring to beer. So we're just driving around for a while, and then we get to a bridge, and he says, stop here. And he started to go on about, you know, how it went bad with him and Renee. He had a small case or bag or something with him, and he opened up the case, and there was like a rag or a t-shirt or something like that, and he unwrapped it, and there was a knife in the rag. And he said to me, this is how I finalize a divorce.
So what happened next?
And I went in and I talked to my mom, and I told my mom.
Same day?
It was the same day. I told her what he had told me. She says, just don't do anything till after I'm gone.
Did she seem surprised?
No. And so then Mom passed away in September.
Cold case 101. You have to wait this many years, and something's going to change, something's going to happen, and it was definitely her passing that allowed Bo to come forward.
I guess I want you to tell me from your heart what it is that made you decide it was time to come forward.
I can't live with this any longer. Yeah, I just can't.
Bo even went with the detective that day after he testified and showed him exactly where the bridge was, where the creek was, where the knife should be.
It's February 3rd, 2020. We're out on Moore Road regarding the Renee Pagel homicide.
It would have been right about here in the center.
Okay.
We were not confident we were going to find that knife just due to the passage of time. If Bo is telling the truth, that knife's been in that creek for 9 years.
See if we can figure out how deep this place is and, you know, kind of what we're up against.
The detectives came up with this huge magnetic contraption. I think they were out there dragging a magnet, trying to find this knife, which who knows if it would even stick. And it was what, like the second to last pass that it hits on something.
Finding that knife was the last piece we needed. And it's what resulted in Mike Pagel being immediately charged.
They're really playing games right now. Isn't it wonderful having family that you can just trust?
After he's charged with the murder, he's arrested, the defense starts talking to us. I hear that he is interested in confessing and pleading guilty.
Good. Hey, did you take care of the internet?
Not yet. I was going to do that when I call back. So I'll probably take care of it tomorrow or the next day.
So Mike got arrested, I believe it was really early February 2020. And I started listening to jail calls right away, along with the detectives. We were hoping that he would say something of, you know, it was an accident, or I went over there to talk to her, something that would be an incriminating statement. And at this point in the case, the children are still talking to their dad quite frequently.
How did it go? Are you all set up with medical?
Have you made any progress on medical?
You both need to expedite yours because it's so important that you have medical.
Yeah.
You guys, if you get in one automobile accident, it can cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I'll put that on the to-do list.
We would watch conversations with him and his kids where he pretends to be the doting dad. He never acted like he was involved. He never showed any remorse or concern for the victim. Never. The fear was that he was going to string these kids along their whole lives, that he was railroaded.
Great. Well, love you, Tyler.
I love you too. Have a safe trip back.
Will do. Bye.
If he doesn't admit and confess, then these kids are going to spend the rest of their lives thinking that their dad is innocent. And we didn't want that. We didn't want that for them.
Mike Pagel, for years, had told his children that he had nothing to do with this. It was bad police work, bad prosecutors, bad everybody else, that he was being railroaded and falsely accused. And unfortunately, his children believed him.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Doing
Are
real
you sure?
good.
You look
yes.
like you lost weight.
Oh, you said that last time.
I did, didn't I?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, so...
Do you need any money in your thing?
In listening to Mike's phone calls and seeing the video of his jail visits, it can be sort of hard to wrap your mind around the idea that this guy could be a cold-blooded, brutal killer.
Hey, did that money ever go through? I never got
No.
confirmation.
No, it didn't.
Okay.
But it didn't as of Saturday, which was yesterday.
Then I don't think it went through.
Mike appears to have a very strong psychological talent for compartmentalization. And you have to develop a level of compartmentalization so that this does not bleed over into the rest of your life.
This is what I want you to try. I want you to do a GoFundMe for yourself. Contact Andrew.
Why?
Have him set up a GoFundMe account for you.
He is such a scammer.
You can get through this. You can make it happen. Don't worry about what's happened in the past. Focus on that GoFundMe account and how it keeps on going up, okay?
To me, it sounds like another scam to get more money for probably, he's thinking, his own court proceedings and attorney fees. I wouldn't be surprised. I just don't know how you put a young child in a position like that.
When watching the video, is that any time that Mike's daughter tries to check in with where Mike is emotionally, how are you doing? He abruptly changes the subject, focuses it back on her.
Okay, well, quick question. How are you?
Good, I'm doing fine,
How are
thank you.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
No way you're doing good.
Well, I've been better. But thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking. Honey, I want you, speaking about this GoFundMe stuff, the inventory.
He doesn't allow her to process any of her emotion about this situation, about her father in jail. But I can't help having a bit of a reaction myself to feeling really bad for his daughter.
There are two Mike Pagels. And that is not the Mike Pagel that killed Renee.
The courtroom was full. There was an air of anticipation. We're going to hear from Mike Pagel. We've been waiting for this moment for more than a decade. It was definitely charged in the courtroom.
In 2006, in the spring, I talked with my brother, okay to call him Bo. I asked him, what did he think the odds were that we could get away with killing him? And he said, well, they were better than half. And at that point, I made a bad decision. We agreed on $100,000 for him to murder Renee. I called Bo, let him know that I was going to have the kids that weekend, that they wouldn't be there. Saturday morning, early in the morning, Bo called me and he said that it's been done. Be ready for the police.
Regarding Bo's involvement, I honestly have no idea if he played a part.
He said that he took a baseball bat and he hit Renee over the head and then stabbed her about 5 or 6 times. And then we had talked about this, you know, make it look like a robbery, you know.
There's no evidence that Bo Pagel committed a crime. The only evidence of any wrongdoing by Bo Pagel is from the guy that murdered Renee, Mike. That's the only evidence, his words. He's a master manipulator.
But I did ask Bo on the phone, did you kill Renee? flat out, at which point he was like, thank you, goodbye, click.
We never found anything to link Bo to Grand Rapids on the night of Renee's murder. Nothing, zero. Let me tell you this about Mike Pagel. Truth is, we didn't focus just on him, but it was clear in our minds and hearts that Mike is our killer.
I spent several hours listening to audio recordings of Mike, watching videos of his jail visits. This is a hallmark presentation of someone who's trying to utilize deceit. The police found that Mike kept extensive journals for a number of years. There was some evidence that Mike was possibly utilizing his journals to process feelings or emotions. There were allegations that Michael had sort of planned this out. So in a premeditated murder, the killer has to go through a psychological process in order to prepare them to pull off the act.
So when you look at these journals and you read some of the things he writes, it's clear he hates Renee, and he feels like he's the victim in this relationship, big time.
Mike says in his journal, "This is a drain. I am not appreciated for anything." He talks about, "I really want out.
I must terminate with extreme prejudice." I mean, this is just a sample of the things he writes, but it's very hateful.
He is sort of demonizing Renee.
Hello.
Hello.
How is it going?
This is unexpected. Sorry I'm late.
No, that's fine. I know I didn't say anything earlier. Sorry.
No, it's good. It's good. Good to see you girls.
Always a ray of sunshine on a morning.
These kids were young when Renee was brutally murdered.
You're not a little bear anymore. You're a young woman.
Well, you're a little bear.
Yes, you are. You'll always be my little bear. But I just want to say how beautiful you are, and I really, really am proud of you.
Mike's sentencing, and just like his plea, the first chance he gets, he blames Bo for Renee's murder. We gave him every opportunity to actually tell his kids everything that happened and accept some responsibility. And to me, it was just more of the same. Poor me, other people did this.
He can't stand for people to know that he was capable of stabbing the mother of his children 50+ times.
You knew that you had hired your brother Charles to kill your wife Renee Pagel, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And based on you hiring your brother and the fact that you planned the murder and encouraged your brother, the defendant is guilty of second-degree murder based on the legal theory of aiding and abetting.
Before he confesses and pleads, the defense attorneys tell me, can you still have the plea if he's going to tell you that his story is that his brother was the actual murderer and he just planned it? So when the defense starts talking to us, we talk with the family because it's their mother and they're grown-ups now. And they wanted us to get a plea. So we did.
News 8's Susan Samples was in court for Pagel's sentencing today. Susan?
The judge gave Mike Pagel 25 to 50 years in prison today. Pagel was allowed to plead guilty to second-degree murder in part to save his adult children from the pain of a trial. In court today, he addressed his children and asked for forgiveness.
Your mom loved you very much and would be very proud to see how well her children have grown. I regret that you all have to pay the consequences you don't deserve.
He was in a situation where he didn't get what he wanted and probably started to think about what he could do in order to change the situation to get what he wanted.
When do you leave for D.C.?
That'll be Wednesday.
I bet you're excited.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait.
Mike orchestrated a situation where the problem he had is now eliminated or gone. Renee is gone. He got the house. He got the money. He got the children.
I go to DC and Capitol Hill and all that, so it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
These poor children will be tied to him in his lies of, I didn't do this, I got railroaded. You know, they set me up for the rest of their lives.
Okay, well, thanks again for just doing everything you're doing. I'm really proud of you.
You know, what's so troubling about this case is that he chose to kill his wife knowing that he was going to leave his 3 small children with no mother. That's hard. Even if you're a hardened prosecutor or a hardened detective, that's hard for you to wrap your head around and not get emotional about.
I really want the kids to know how amazing she was.
Renee was a very proud mom of 3 kids. She loved them. There will never, ever be another Renee.
I've never known anybody like her, and she will always be in my heart.